Imagine a planet of little TJ lasers, all highly skilled in weapons and biotic tactics, with me as absolute ruler. If you don't want to be a part of this incredible vision, then you can get a space taxi back to Planet Idiot.
I'm TJ Laser, expert with lasers and phasers. Depth it is courage.
Where are we?
Lasers and phasers. Lasers and phasers.
What is up, everybody? Welcome once again to the IRL YouTube channel, and today let's get with our debut race for the season number 6 of our PC Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, We are at Albert Park, 5.3 kilometers of tarmac, 16 turns go around the lake that is located right in the middle of this public park. In this half permanent circuit of public roads layout, we have 10 corners to the right and 6 to the left that will be traveled 29 times this evening, and although the track is quite narrow and twisty at times, overtaking is definitely not at all impossible, with the approaches to the turns 1, 13 and 3 promising some action, where the DRS zones that precede them are ready to facilitate the on-track battles. So, taking a look at our driver lineups, we have Felix and Noah, both Germans composing the Mercedes team. Then we have the Portuguese Francisco alongside Julian for the Mission Winnow Scuderia Ferrari team. After that, we have Nicolas Longuet and BTEC Sim Racer composing the Red Bull team, as we have both British drivers in the McLaren team, Andy Nater and J. Cole. Moving to the Renaults, we have Plexits and Shadow, followed by the Alfa Romeo guys who are Zerd and Iceman. Another full British team in Daslad and Dasgood, who represent Racing Point F1 team, with Bounds and Corporal Carrot representing the Toro Rosso guys. Moving to the AS Rich Energy team, we have Entity and Roman, the only Frenchman, only Frenchman in this championship other than Nicolas Longuet, as we have Lehman and Marek in the Williams team. Moving to the constructors, you guys can see no one has scored any points so far, so let's get on started with our qualifying session, shall we? So okay, so you can take that out of the way and sort out everything in my second monitor real quick, as it looks like OBS decided to troll me, so give me just a second. Okay guys, I believe we are back. OBS decided to troll me there. OBS wasn't registering the F1 game, so let me sort everything out. I believe we are back to live, and okay, so everything is ready. I can see chat now, as we are already underway with our qualifying session. As you can see, Corporal Carrot is about to start his flying lap. Let's follow with the British driver going up through the gears. Is going to wait for the 100-meter marker board at the left hand side of the track to get into turn 1. Smooth on the power you need to be as you go up through the gears. DRS wide open, as you now have to wait once again about 100 meters away from turn 3 is where you start going on the brakes. You need smooth on the power as well, trying to get the better angle possible to attack corner number 4. Turn 5 is done flat out. Try to avoid the curb on the inside, or it might get you in the wall. There you end the first sector. Is now start going up to the gears once again before the chicane of turns 9 and 10. It is a tricky braking zone to spot, not really exactly with a braking marker there to aid you, and you need to be smooth on the power once again as you go up through the gears before one of the most crucial points of the entire circuit. Turns 11 and 12. Try to throw the car in as hard as you can commit to it. DRS is open on the other side of that one as you go up through the gears, basically flat out from there to turn number 13. He misses the apex there, a big mistake there from the British driver. Is actually going to get jumped by Iceman there, and I believe that is going to be the lap from Corporal Carrot. I'm pretty sure he's still going to try to complete that one. He's still going to set a lap time. Let's see what he does, but nonetheless it is a lap ruined for the Toro Rosso driver. He posts a 1:25.2, not the greatest start of the session for the British driver of the Toro Rosso. So we can get ourselves jumping into another car. Let's take a look at Entity. He was having some issues in the lobby. This game crashed a lot of times, but fortunately the Slovenian has managed to be for this qualifying session. The game didn't crash during the loading procedure, so that's nice for him, as he's about to complete his lap. And let's see what time it's going to be. Gets smooth on the power at the exit. Is very close to the rating. That might not help him. But it is 4th place. 121.1 as we have a new provisory pole. As it is Shadow and Plexus, his teammate. Jumps him 3 seconds apart. The two Renaults are now provisory 1st and 2nd. Let's take a look as Bounds just crosses the line to get 13th. Then we have Cisco and J. Cole. So let me try to find out who is closest to the end of their lap. It is the Portuguese of the Ferrari who is closest to completing his lap. Let's see how he does now through the complex of corners, turns 11 and 12. Misses the apex there, a bit hesitant on throwing the car in. That's going to cost him a lot of time. He did not use the full width of the track. Looks like he's taking it easy in these first laps, just trying to get a banker lap, but he makes a huge mistake there. Almost lost the car in the grass and the gravel. JSR could have been collected there as Cisco lost control, but fortunately he still has his car pointing in the right direction. So let's jump to J. Cole, the British driver of the McLaren. Is going to take his car to the end of this first lap. He looks like he nullified the first lap, so maybe extending the circuit along the way. But looks like in the second lap he's going to be the one who's going to set a lap time. The DRS is wide open on the back of that McLaren. Is going to cross over the line, and it is going to be 10th place. Best of the medium compound runner so far. 122.3 for the McLaren. It took one extra lap, but nonetheless well done to be the first of the medium runners so far. We have Zerd and Kruzix on their out laps. Let's see who is closest to ending it. It looks like it is Zerd. I'm actually going to follow Zerd. Sky Bashimi has joined. He dropped out in the loading between the lobby and qualifying, so he's joined. Of course, he's going to start from last place, unfortunately for him, but hopefully he can have a good race. So the number 24 getting himself through the last couple corners of the first sector. I have personal experience from racing against him. He's a very quick driver. So I would say the Alfa Romeos, I don't know about Iceman, but at least with Sarge they have a very good possibility of getting some special results. Getting now on the approach to turns 9 and 10. Look at that, very smooth on the power as well, trying to get as full weight of the track as he possibly can. But getting yourself as close to the wall on the exit as you dare. Now throwing the car in to turn number 11 and 12. DRS wide open on the back of that Alfa Romeo, is depleting his ERS bar quite quickly as he went into overtake mode. Let's see what he does. Is he going to derate or not? As he gets now through turn number 14. Heavy braking zone into 15, spotting the apex quite nicely there, opening to the left to create a better angle of attack through the last corner, using as much of the curb as he dares without getting a penalty, of course. Going to cross over the line, and it is new provisory pole by 1,000th of a second. He beats the Dutch driver of the Renault, 122.08 as opposed to the 122.09 from the Renault driver. Very close, as you can see. And yeah, it's a testament to how skilled the field is here in IRL. Very well done by both these drivers to be with so little splitting them so far into this qualifying session. Of course, I'm going to be interested in seeing who else manages to catch up with those in the top two. Kruzix crosses over the line to finish his first flying lap of the session with a 1:21.9. JSR is about to complete his lap as well. The Williams driver just started his flying lap. So let's take a look at someone who might be on a flying lap that's closer to the end of the session. So Andy Nater looks like he's already in sector 3. So let's see what the McLaren driver does. He's actually going into the pits. Maybe he nullified his lap, maybe extension of track limits. So let's see what Julian does. It's his turn to show what he's got. Currently through sector 2 is improving by just over a second as he approached corners number 11 and 12 there. Don't know if you guys caught that one on the lap time information. just managing the last couple corners of this Australian layout. And I'm sorry about that. My cable is a little bit loose. Is going to navigate now corner number 16. Actually not, he's going to the pits. Okay. It's the second guy I check him up on him and he goes into the pits. So well done by me. BTEC Sim Racer jumps into 5th place in the meantime, demoting Julian down a place. Iceman also completed a flying lap, is currently in 7th with a 120.9. Entity is the quickest out of the drivers who haven't gotten into the 120s just yet. Let's see if he manages to do a sub 121 lap this time around. He's going to open the RS, he's going to cross over the line, and it is going to be a 121.0. He improves up to P8, but unfortunately for him, he is not able to go under the 120s just yet. Oh, or sorry, under the 121s. Looking at someone else who is who might be closing his lap. No one knows, he's still in the first sector, but he's on mediums at the moment. Currently on the mediums. I'm not sure what tire he used on his previous attempt, but he is sure going to try to qualify on those mediums, trying to get a bit more flexibility in terms of the strategy coming into the Grand Prix. Let's see what he does. Getting himself up to the gears. We're going to go on board. He's actually not going for a fastest lap as Darren is out of the session. Unfortunately, the Racing Points team is already a man down. So Darren is going to be, best case scenario, is going to start in 14th place. Noah looks like he's aborting his lap. He's in 1 on his ERS. So I'm actually going to pull away from him and follow another driver who's in the 3rd sector. Shadow is currently in 3rd, but is also on a cooldown lap. He managed to improve 2/10 on his previous lap. Is closer to the top 2, but not quite enough to get on the front row. Entity is also pulling back into the pits, so we have a few drivers on their out lap. Andinator just started his lap, so great timing for me, I would say. Let's follow then the British driver up through the gears, through corner number 2, run down into number 3. Plexit is in the way. He maybe could have tried to take a bit of slipstream, don't know with how slow Plexit was, if that would have been safe though. Up through the gears once again at the exit of corner number 4. That curb can be quite dangerous if you take it just right, but he managed to be smooth through those. Just about 60 meters away from the corner, you go hard on the brakes as you complete the 1st sector, and you now just hold your breath trying to spot the very hard braking zone into turn number 9, and then you don't want to be taking too much of the curb on the inside. He did. I am not sure if he got a lap invalidation or not. Corporal Carrot is on an out lap. That can be dicey. I don't know why Corporal is not backing out. That's very likely to compromise Andinator, but nonetheless, the McLaren carries on by. Yeah, still not sure if he nullified his lap or not, but we are going to find out rather soon, I would say. Now, getting to the approach, big braking zone, also very slippery surface on that point of the track, very easy to lock up, and yes, looks like he did indeed nullify his previous lap and is going to take it back into the pits. So Julian is still in the 2nd sector, Cruisix is a bit further up, J. Cole is behind, and Corporal Carrot is even further behind. So let's follow Cruisix at the moment, then we are going to jump to Julian. So Cruisix, I have no experience of watching him race, never raced against him, so he's a complete unknown to me. The reserve driver is currently replacing Nicolas Longuet, of course, the most recent acquisition from the Esports section of Red Bull to be the newest Esports driver. But Cruisix actually takes it into the pits. Okay, so aborting his lap, Julian completes his lap with a 120.4, moves up to 4th place, and jumping to J. Cole, crosses the line with a 121.0, so he becomes the new fastest guy to yet to do sub 21 lap and moves up to P8. Plexit is on his flying lap at the moment, not improving by less than 200ths of a second, so he can still do better than that. He can still try to get that pole position. Let's see how the Dutchman does. Hard on the brakes once again into 15, and yeah, that was a quite odd angle for someone to take the last corner with, and he manages to decide to abort the lap, dives into the pits, and that's going to be it for his attempt. He can still go out there again, but he must be pretty quick through his tire change. Corporal Carrot finally set up a lap time and is currently on his cooldown lap. Cisco looks like he is running out of fuel. Is he still going to try to get the fastest lap, or a faster lap? Looks like he is. He's currently on the softs. He opens the DRS. His ERS is right at the end of its life, and he crosses the line, improves to a 125.6, but he gets quickly demoted to last place as JSR is now up to 15th. There was a collision there. That might be a penalty from him, or for him. Bounce in 17th at a collision with JSR. That might be a penalty for one of the two. No messages from race control just yet though. Let's jump to Noah, the German of the Mercedes, or part of the full German lineup at the Mercedes team. Let's see what time he does at the end of Sector 1. He's not improving, but it's just 1,000 of a second, so there's still margin for improvement there. Noah is also another driver who I'm not familiar with, never raced with him, never saw him race before. So let's see what he can do here today. Is he going to be able to do a sub 21? Is he going to get into the top 10? What is he going to do? Let's find out, as he's improving by 2/10 at this point. That would get him a 121.5, which wouldn't grant him an improvement in the positions. He would improve his lap time, but not his position, as his own teammate is about 4/10 away from him, as number 13 is about to complete the layout. Let's see what he does. Manages to get smoothly through the exit of 15, getting nicely through 16, DRS wide open, ERS right at the end of its charge, going to cross over the line. Doesn't do a sub 21, but it does manage to get into the top 10. Lehman might have a word to say about that, as he just starts his flying lap in the Williams. Let's follow on board, in fact, with the pole, the only driver from Poland in this championship. Let's see what he does over the curb. That's going to delay him a little bit. Not sure if he actually got invalidated or not. We are going to find out at the end of the lap. I suppose he's improving still, despite that big mistake. He's improving by just over 200ths of a second. Every 10th counts in qualifying, of course, so he's going to keep pushing unless his lap was nullified. Getting through the curb, a bit of a tank slapper there. Managed to control it and still avoid the wall. Nicely done then from Lehman, as J. Cole, I don't know if he crashed out or if he just removed himself from the session. Once again, Lehman cutting the inside of the corner there. Julian gets himself a 120.4 as the checkered flag is shown to him. Yeah, J. Cole must probably binned it in a wall, because we have yellow flags due through sector 3. Shadow manages to improve his flying lap. Zerd moves up to P2. Or sorry, no, he actually didn't. He was in the pits and does not improve. So Shadow does the only sub 20 lap so far and gets the checkered flag with the provisory pole in his back pocket. Let's now take a look at Entity, who is close to finishing his lap as well. Let's see what this Slovenian does, as after him we have a Red Bull. I'm going to bet on Bitex Sim Racer, don't know though, so maybe my camera work might take a knock there. Looks like I am correct in the fact that it is Bitex Sim Racer behind Entity, because Kruzix already claimed 6th place from his teammate. Julian is doing his best to get out of the way from everyone, and he crosses over the line to get 8th place so far, 120.9. Bitex Sim Racer is going to cross the line. Looks like he didn't improve on that one. He actually did not improve by 1,000th of a second. So that's qualifying done for him, as everybody else crosses the line. Iceman is in the pits, so just needs to wait for the game to realize that this is it for the qualifying session. So just need to wait a couple more moments, I believe. Yes, J. Cole and Darren are out of the session. Darren managed to still keep 16th place, despite retiring quite early in the session. I imagine a crash, most likely at the exit of the high-speed chicane of turns 11 and 12. Very very popular crash zone, I would say. And yeah, this is it for the qualifying session. BTX English, as you guys can see, 7th place, not too shabby for the Welsh driver. As you get the official results, Shadow on pole, 3 tenths away from Zerd. Blexit not too far behind at all. Look at that. Handinator in 4th place, Julian in 5th, Cruzix in 6th, BTX Racer in 7th, Entity in 8th, Iceman in 9th, J. Cole closes the top 10. After that we have Noah Felix following his teammate, then Dazlad, Lehman, Bounds, Darren, followed by JSR in the 2nd, Williams, Corporal Carrot in the 2nd, Toro Rosso, and Cisco having a disastrous qualifying session, if I can say so myself. He is the last, not the last on the grid, because Kai Bachimi dropped his connection on the loading screen to the qualifying session, but he managed to get back in the lobby, so he's going to start from P20. Cisco takes that and manages to not get absolute last in the standings. Let's see how it goes, though. It looks like it is raining. I didn't get any information from any of the drivers regarding the conditions, but looks like it is raining, and I can see in the garage they have, at least as you can see there on the garage of Noah, he has the Pirelli Cinturato green tires, the intermediates, ready to fit on his Mercedes. I'm sure they are discussing the best course of action with their Jeffs, but me, I'm completely in the dark. I have no idea if the rain is going to improve, if the conditions are going to improve, if they are going to get worse. I'm not sure when the conditions are going to change, if they are going to change at all. So let's see how it goes. As we have everyone getting through their formation lap, going to set everything up again. As you can see, everyone is on intermediate, so that's why no one was on the mediums. Everyone pushed their best on the softs because they knew they didn't have to start the race on the dry compounds. But as everyone is doing their formation laps, talking about strategy, through my data, there are 2 popular strategies, I would say. You can go from softs to hards, pitting at lap 8, or you can go from softs to mediums, pitting at lap 11. Of course, none of the drivers are starting on the dry compounds because it's raining, it's intermediate conditions, as you guys can see. But if the weather improves, it's going to be quite crucial when it improves for the strategies to be effective or not. So let's see how it goes. It might actually get worse rain, might actually never stop raining, and everyone does a stop eventually to get another set of intermediates. I actually do not know how long the intermediates last in this race, but hopefully we can still have some spiciness. Well, the rain, of course, is going to add some unpredictability for sure, as it's going to be shown what drivers are more comfortable in the wet compared to his rivals. Maybe someone that was quicker in qualifying has not practiced as much in the wet, or is just not comfortable overall in the wet. So it is going to add an interesting dynamic for sure. You have Shadow getting through the last corner now. He's getting himself on his grid marks rather soon. And we have everyone lining up behind him. It's Shadow and Zerd in the front row, so it is the British driver on pole, followed by the yeah, it is a British one too actually. So let's see how it goes. Maybe each of them trying to channel their inner Hamilton. Let's see how it goes though. In the real life Grand Prix, it was Valtteri Bottas taking 2nd place in qualifying and taking home the win. Let's see what happens in this IRL debut race of the Season 6 of the PC. So, pretty soon we are going to have our lights getting shown to us. Let me just check Kai Bachimi. We are just waiting for Cisco. So yeah, this is it now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And my controller decided to troll me. Thank you very much. And lights out, and away we go for the Australian Grand Prix. A good start from Shadow, not as good start from Zerd, as Plexitz already takes around the outside to get himself up to P2. After that we have Zerd moving down to P3, Julian in P4, and Dinator in 5th. There's someone battling at the back of the pack. Corporal Carrot gained and dropped a few positions at the start. Quite chaotic start for him as he manages to settle himself in P17. Zerd drops down to P3. Zulian in P4 and Dinator in 5th. BTX Sim Racer actually jumps his teammate. Kruzix qualified in 60s, dropped down to P8, so good start from both the Welshman and Iceman in the Alfa Romeo. Entity in 9th. Bound in P10. J. Cole in 11th place, not too bad so far as well from the the McLaren driver. Zerd moving back to the front is glued to the rear diffuser of the Renault. Let's see what he does. Is he going to actually try a maneuver into the high-speed chicane? No, he's going to back out from it, but there might have been contact, and Placid is going to take a detour through the grass. He needs to be careful rejoining the track. There's also a mistake from BTX Sim Racer. Iceman is going to say thank you very much and get himself up into P5. Kruzix is also going to try to take advantage of the mistake of his teammate and manages to go up into a P7. BTX Sim Racer is not giving up just yet though. Kruzix is having a go at inside of Plexit. What a disastrous first lap it has been for the Dutch driver, as BTX Sim Racer has prime seat in the house for the battle for P6. A bit of wiggly rear ends there for the Welsh driver. Wasn't able to capitalize on a potential bad exit from the Renault driver. Zandinator moves up to P4, keeps himself chasing the top 3. Looking down at the gaps, we still have Plexit getting a little cheeky look down the inside of the Red Bull. Managed to back out from it. Who is not backing out from it is J. Cole, who went down the inside of Bounds and claims P10 from the Toro Rosso driver. Lehman also going a bit wide at the exit of turn 4. Daslat tried to take advantage of that, but compromised his exit, and now it's JSR, who had a look there for a moment, but managed to back out as Noah is out of the session. A big moment there from JSR. That's going to cost him a bit. Kai Bashimi and Darren are both getting a drive through the pits for a replacement of front wing, I assume, and also to get brand new intermediate tires. Bounce still dropping places. Now it's Lehman. The pole jumps the Toro Rosso driver and it drops a place, this time down to a P12 as Noah has left the session. He's already the first victim of this Grand Prix. Now looking back at the front, Shadow is starting to pull away, as already a commanding 1.2 lead to Zerd, who has Julian in P3 not too far behind, and Dinator is quite far behind the Ferrari driver, I would say. Zerd gets the fastest lap of the race so far. Iceman is going to try to take advantage of Dinator's struggles. He isn't quite able to keep up with the top 3, so Iceman is going to start getting a bit of slipstream from the car ahead in the straights. That might be helpful. Of course, no DRS available for any of the drivers after the moment, as we have BTX Sim Racer having a challenge down the inside of turn 3. Plexit manages to be aware of that and takes it a little bit wider, being fair to BTX Sim Racer, but also managing to keep up his speed through the corner. Manages to defend P7. Very effective maneuver there from the Dutch driver of the Renault. Looking further down the order, we have Lehman still under a second from J. Cole, as the gaps between each driver starts to solidify and start to open up a little bit. There's a mistake from J. Cole. He's not quite able to put the power down as early as he might have hoped, especially as he went through the grass there on the exit, and J. Cole has to concede, and it's Lehman up to P10. I believe he didn't get the greatest of qualifying, of the qualifying performances, but he's already up to P10, so great performance from the pole. J. Cole looks like he had a better exit out of the high-speed chicane, but not quick enough to mount an overtaking attempt for the last of the points paying positions. Looking up at the battle for 4th place, Dinator has been losing time to Iceman. Maybe a mistake somewhere along the lap as Shadow gets a new fastest lap of the race. Zerd is maintaining the 1.2 second gap, but Shadow is just did the fastest lap of the race, and therefore is going to gain a couple tenths quite soon. The camera angle is not helping me there, as we have Dinator getting quite slidey at the exit of turn number 2. As we got into number 10, words, I'm sorry about that, but Kruzix completely missing the braking zone, is out of the session. Endinator also retires from the session. What a mistake from the Red Bull driver. And we have a virtual safety car. Actually, good timing for me, if I can say so myself. Kruzix just completely missed the braking zone, went too hard on the brakes to try to compensate, locked both front tires. And that was it for both Kruzix and Endinator. He actually collected Lehman, if I'm not mistaken, in the chaos as well. But that is it at the moment. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Sorry, it wasn't Lehman that he collected, it was Iceman that he collected. But Iceman doesn't look like he has front wing damage, at least I couldn't detect. The front wing is black on these Alfa Romeos, so for me it's a bit hard to detect any sort of damage. The safety car has been cleared, the virtual safety car has been cleared, so we are back on green flag racing. Iceman has a bit of a no man's land at his disposal at the moment. Is clear from the top 3 and he has Plexits a couple seconds behind, just under 1.5 seconds. We had a battle between Bounce and Felix as the Mercedes drops down to P13, Bounce moves up to P12. Looking at the gaps from each driver, the battle for P10, or sorry, for P9 might still be true and alive. It is an 8/10 gap between Daslad and J. Cole, so if the McLaren does any more mistakes, the Force India is going to be chomping at the bits to try and take the 9th place, and with that double is points scoring prospects at the end of the race. Plexit was at 1 point under a second of Iceman, but looks like he made a mistake as he dropped a couple tenths there. BTEC Racer was the one that was able to get into less than a second of the Renault driver, but nonetheless looks like the Renault is starting to regain his pace again. Zerd has been catching up to Shadow very slightly throughout the laps, but he is already under a second of a gap, so we might have a battle for the lead rather soon. Plexit is quite swinging through 0.9 and 1.1, 1.2 seconds away from Iceman, so Plexit needs to find another gear if he wants to make a move on Iceman rather soon. Taking another look, scanning down the order, Lehman half a second away from Entity, so maybe the Slovenian driver of the Haas made a mistake. Zerd, Shadow gets the fastest lap. Zerd responds with a 1:35.5, if I read that correctly, and he is already under a second for sure. As we had yellow flags in the sector 1, I'm not sure who that is. I don't see anyone who has crashed or spun. Speaking of spins, Lehman doing well to avoid one of his own. A bit of wiggly car coming out of turn 2, managed to counter steer and catch the car. We still have yellow flags at the sector 1. I am not sure why that is for. Maybe Felix made a mistake. He's missing quite a considerable amount of his front wing as he dives into the pit for a replacement of that. So a pretty catastrophic start of the season for the Mercedes. And scanning down the gaps, Lehman has lost 2 tenths in this lap to Entity, so looks like that one has normalized. We are going to keep tabs though on this battle for 8 places. Cole looks like has made a mistake through the corner number 9 and 10 chicane, and Lehman might try to have a go at him. There's contact and both drivers are going to take it through the grass. I'm not sure Lehman had the rights to put his nose in there. And even though he had the space, Entity was always going to try to get a bit further to the right to take the best line possible into the high-speed chicane. Not sure about that one. That was dicey. Daslite trying to take advantage of the mistake, but he's not able to do so, and he's going to lose a big amount of time to Jaco, which was the driver that the Racing Points driver was chasing. Now he's chasing the Slovenian of the Haas. There's a mistake from Lehman. J. Cole is going to take advantage of that already, up to P9. Lehman, there's a big, very important traction zone, the exit of the last corner, and especially in this wet conditions, it can be quite tricky for sure. Lehman did well, at least as far as I can see. He did well to avoid damage on his front wing. He missed the wall, but lost time there and lost 7th place with it. He's not too far behind the McLaren driver though, so he can still try to regain that position. But nonetheless, that is a battle that we are going to take a look at for the laps to come. Zerd is finally increasing the pace with which he is closing in on Shadow. The gap is now less than half a second. A bit of slidiness there coming out of the high-speed chicane. Let's see how the Alfa Romeo driver does. We're actually going to follow on boards for you guys to get a better understanding of where not only the inputs, as you have in the bottom right corner, is brake and throttle inputs, but also you can see how much Zerd is gaining or losing through each corner. Looks like Shadow got a better exit. A bit of correction there from Zerd. Julian is no match at this point for the pace that is being printed by these two. He's already 2 seconds behind, out of contention for the win, at least so far, as Zerd pulls another fastest lap of the race. Unfortunately, he dropped back a couple tenths on Shadow. Looking at Plexits, who has in the meantime, as we have an Alfa Romeo chasing a Renault for the lead. For P4, it's exactly the reverse story. It is a Renault chasing a Alfa Romeo for P4. So Plexits, Lehman taking advantage of a mistake from Jaco, or actually, yeah, maybe a mistake coming out of turn 2 and into turn 3. Lehman is going to take a move around the outside and get himself up to P7, so managed to recover the position that he had lost a couple laps ago with his mistake. Zerd is closer than ever to Shadow, apart from when they were both standing on the starting grid. Let's see, will Zerd get a better exit through the high-speed chicane? Let's see. No, looks like Shadow actually gained a couple thousandths or a couple hundredths of a second, maybe a tenth there, as Zerd has a bit of trouble getting on the brakes there. And looks like every single time I go on board with Zerd, he manages to lose time to Shadow. So I will avoid doing that one for a bit, for the sake of the spiciness of the race. So, going to scan the gaps. The other two drivers that are the closest is Plexits and Iceman. Everybody else is over 1 second away from each other, and of course we are not in dry conditions. We won't have DRS even if they were under a second from each other. So it's going to be a waiting game for these drivers who can force their rivals into a mistake. Of course, the probability of making a mistake is higher under these conditions. So just pushing each other, of course, even when you are over a second, you can still put pressure on your rival if you are being faster lap after lap. Even if it is a tenth, the driver is looking at that gap decreasing, and that's going to for sure put pressure on him, and that might force a mistake. As a driver, it might be very fun to race under those circumstances. You are not actually racing wheel to wheel, but you are still pushing yourself because you want to try to get to the car ahead or run away from the car behind, and your rival is trying to do the same. So those can be high pressure situations in these conditions. Of course, the rain is not going to help the smoothness of the drivers or how high it is, the probability of them keeping unscathed through the lap. But let's see how that one develops. BTEC Sim Racer has closed in on Plexits, as Plexits has dropped out of the 1 second gap to the car ahead. So a bit of pace has found Iceman, which is good to see from the Belgium driver. Taking a look now at Zerd. Another fastest lap from him. 1:35.1 is really piling up the pressure on the shoulders of the British driver of the Renault. Let's see how it goes. Zerd is going to take the slipstream, but it's still not enough. Taking a look at the ERS, Zerd has an ERS advantage at the moment, as he's taking the opportunity to take the slipstream to be able to conserve his ERS a little bit down the straights. Of course, he can achieve higher top speeds with the aid of the slipstream, so the hybrid, or he doesn't need to use the hybrid power unit to its full capabilities, and is keeping the pressure, is keeping himself within half a second. So let's see how it goes. He's keeping himself on 0 as well, which helps him take better exits, or at least be more daring on the throttle at the exit. He doesn't have the extra horsepower given by the electric of the power unit, as he actually he forces his rival into a mistake, and he's going to take it around the outside of turn number 13. Is he going to pull it off? They go hard on the brakes. He gets squeezed onto the curb. That's not going to get him optimal getaway traction, but nonetheless, he's going to have to stay put in P2 for the moment. I believe someone got a penalty. I believe I just got a notification from race control. Unfortunately, the battle was unfolding and I couldn't quite catch who that was. Though this battle has allowed Julian to get under 2 seconds. If these guys keep battling like this for too much longer, Julian might join the party and it might be a 3-horse race for the race win. Shadow gets switched back by Zard, who gets a very good exit. He's going up through the gears, number 4 mode on his ERS, goes a little bit later on the brakes, but he goes too late, and Shadow is going to take advantage of that back into P1 for the Renault driver. Great battle we are seeing at the moment, but just as I was saying, all that has allowed Julian to be right now at about 1 second away from the duo that you have on the screen. So it was a good display of racing between these two drivers, but it's not going to help their chances, as of course if you are battling for the win as 3 drivers, your chances of actually taking the win might decrease a little bit. Everything can happen, as you are now having to start to pay attention to your mirrors a little bit more, as Darren gets a 3-second time penalty for 1 too many corner cuts, unfortunately for him, but he's not having the greatest race anyways. He's down in 16th. The Racing Point driver is not having the brightest of starts to the season. His teammate though, he is 1 point to his name, at least if he maintains this position until the end of the race. He hasn't been able to pressurize Entity, was chasing J. Cole, then there was all that incident between Lehman and Entity. Entity dropped a couple places, and Daslad was not able to get past the Diaz and follow through and keeping pressure on the McLaren, but since then he hasn't been able to overtake the Haas driver either. As we have once again, I'm gonna go on board with Julian, as he has prime seat in the house. I might send him some popcorn over Amazon if I can. Maybe gift him some popcorn after the end of the race, because he has prime seat in the house for the battle for P1. We're going to stick with the Dutch driver for a little bit as we get through the first couple of corners. A bit of a tank slapper there from Julian. He's actually exploring the curbs quite a bit in places I wouldn't recommend. He got over the curb there to turn 5, had to do quite a few counter steering movements on his steering wheel to avoid going nose first into the wall. But he's maintaining the 1 second gap, especially as Zerd continues to pressurize Shadow, and Shadow continues to do his best to hold onto P1. I don't know how the tires are at the moment for the drivers. I have no idea. Unfortunately, I have no idea where the weather is going to go to from now, if it's going to maintain like this until the end of the race. It looks like so, at least so far it hasn't stopped raining. I don't see any openings in the clouds in the areas surrounding the circuit. As we are through the T-cam or the TV pod of the Ferrari, we can see a bit further away from the track. I don't see any openings in the clouds that would suggest slowing down in the rain anytime soon, so I'm led to believe that it is going to be raining like this for at least the next 5, maybe 10 laps, maybe until the end of the race. So I believe the drivers are going to have to pit soon. I don't know when that pit window is going to open for them. That is the question mark for me. So it is going to be interesting to see who can take the tires for longer, who is smoother on the tires, because everyone started on the same compound, especially the guys on the lead, who has the smoothest driving style out of the two. They've shown the speed, they've shown they have speed for sure. They haven't shown, at least to me yet, how smooth they are on the tires. It's going to be a battle of the smoothest at this point, if they are going to take a one-stop strategy on the intermediates into another set of intermediates until the end of the race. Going to jump now to another perspective from Zerd, actually from Shadow, as he is still getting chased. Great resiliency from Shadow, for sure, as he has been very pressurized by Zerd. Actually, taking a look at Zerd, Zerd has way more ERS at his disposal at the moment, so it is going to be it's going to be hard for Shadow to maintain himself in a P1. But these two, they need to pay attention, because Julian is not too far behind. Julian is still entirety of his ERS, which is quite surprising, I would say. And finally, we have the first driver to get into the pits that is not for a replacement of the front wing. Lap 12 is the pit stop for Shadow. He's going to try the undercut on the two drivers that we have on your screens. Now it's going to be Julian putting the pressure on Zerd. Is he going to force Zerd into any mistakes? He's already under half a second. We have Shadow. Actually, it was it the... No, okay, sorry. I misread. For a second, I thought it was Plexits that was leading the race. I thought they were stacking the cars at the Renault pit stop. Shadow is still showing us in the pits. Okay, finally got out. Iceman is the second driver coming into the pits. He's going to get released and rejoin the track right ahead of BTEC Sim Racer, who also came into the pits. Is Bounce going to jump him? Looks like not. Oh wait, this might be a better exit. BTEC's tires are still a bit colder, but Bounce couldn't quite get away from the rear wing of BTEC Sim Racer. He couldn't tighten up the corner to try to get a run on him. Of course, under these circumstances, that could have well meant that Bounce was going to spin, so he's going to not take the risk. He knows he's up to P10. He's getting undercut by some of his rivals, but nonetheless, he's going to try his best. Lehman gets away from the pits, 7 seconds away, the closest car ahead, so he has a bit of no man's land at the moment at his disposal. He has clean air. He can put his best laps, or the best laps he can. Let's see if Lehman can overtake someone through strategy, even though he's getting... he's undercutting the other guys. Sometimes you are just not quick enough, right? So let's see how that one develops for the pole. We have Zerd going into the pits. We have Plexits also diving into the pits. Julian carries on his tires. Again, maybe Julian has just superior smoothness on his tires. Let's see how that goes. Let's see how that one goes. As Zerd comes out of the pits behind Shadow, 2.5 seconds behind Shadow. Zerd, sorry, no, actually not 2.5 seconds. This is a mess in the standings at the moment. Yeah, Zerd is 1.5 seconds behind. Then he has J. Cole less than a second behind him. Plexits is in 6th at the moment. We have a couple drivers also in the pits. We have Entity coming out of the pits in P9. Deslad right behind in P10. Bounce comes out of his pit stop. Is he going to resist? There was another guy coming down the straight, and he gets jumped by those guys. But it doesn't look like he lost a position to them. So it looks like it was Darren. Oh, Kaibashimi is in the wall! Oh god, that was Kaibashimi in the wall there. And he's parked right on the rundown into turn 3. Not sure if that's going to deploy a safety car of some sort. But yeah, Bounce got the scare of his life, I'm pretty sure of that. As fortunately for him, the Haas ghosted right in the nick of time to allow him to get through unscathed. Jumping back to the battle for the lead, Zerd has 1 lap fresher tire, but that doesn't necessarily mean too much of a change. Julian could have taken this opportunity to go into the pits. He did not. J. Cole, is he going to take advantage of that? We have the virtual safety car being deployed. There was someone in the wall. Was it Felix? I believe Felix just missed his braking into the pit lane entry and slammed himself onto the pit wall, just like was it Villeneuve? I believe it was Villeneuve a couple years ago, to say the least. But yeah, very well timed there for J. Cole. He's going to manage to get himself ahead of Lehman, I am sure of that. Potentially not. Let's see. Yes, he does keep himself ahead of Lehman, with very well done from him, as we have yellow flags in all 3 sectors, but we have green flag racing once again. Julian, maybe if he just pitted there, he could have gotten, his chances of winning the race would have raised astronomically, to say the least. Instead of that, he just got a 3-second time penalty. Very unfortunate for the Dutch driver of the Ferrari, but it is what it is. He's going to be currently on old tires. I'm not sure if he's going to try to hope for an improvement in the weather. I'm not sure if one is scheduled at all, but at the moment Zard has lost time to Shadow. He's starting to gain back a bit, just like he was in the first stint after losing time at the start, but it is over 1 second the gap, so we're going to jump to these two a bit later on. In the meantime, Lehman is showing that he is faster than J. Cole, although J. Cole took advantage of the virtual safety car to pit. He is going to be under pressure from the Williams driver. Julian finally goes into the pits and gets and is allowed to rejoin the track. There's a moment there from Zard. Ooh, that was very close to the wall. He managed to catch that one, didn't even get off the track whatsoever, but nonetheless I'm pretty sure the underwear of Zard have been soiled. Okay, that was a heart-stopping moment for sure. Julian is as far away from Zard as Zard is from Shadow. His 3-second time penalty isn't helping his case, as Tesla just got a 3-second time penalty of his own, even though the car behind him is 12 seconds behind, so I would say he's free in that department, as Andy Nater has left the session, as he had already retired from the race after a collision between Kruzix and him. For those of you that have missed it, Kruzix was 6th, I believe Iceman was 4th, and then Nater was 5th. Kruzix into turn 3, missed his braking zone, collected the McLaren and the Alfa Romeo. The Alfa Romeo didn't get any damage, and Nater was a bit ahead of the Alfa Romeo. Got a collision, there was actual contact between the Red Bull and the McLaren, and race over for both of them, unfortunately. So jumping to the front, Zard is already half a second away from Shadow. Is this going to be it? A new fastest lap from Zard, 1:34.3. He already had an attempted overtake at Shadow, but then into turn 3 there's a moment from Shadow and he's in the wall. Was there damage for the Renault? Let's try to take a look at that. There is damage. The side wall, the left side wall, for a lack of better word, on the front wing of that Renault is gone, and that might be chances over for Shadow. Julian is closing in quite rapidly though there. Ooh, is Julian going to try to force a maneuver? He manages to not overtake Shadow, but Shadow is going to have massive amounts of understeer through corner number 8. And is going to have to concede second place to Julian. Very unfortunate stuff from Shadow. He has endured the charge from Zard for how many laps? But it was what I was saying. You have the gap decreasing. You have the guy jumping at bits to have an overtake attempt on you. Shadow was already struggling with the fact that he had lower ERS than Julian and Zard. So, unfortunately, it is what it is. He was forced into a mistake. Zard had done the same in the previous lap, but he managed to keep the car under control. Shadow had a bit of a bigger moment and is into the wall. As we have Bit Extreme Racer, speaking of the mistakes, is all discombobulated out of the high-speed chicane. J. Cole might actually be under pressure from Lehman as well. Both of them get promoted to 6th and 7th respectively, and Lehman couldn't overtake J. Cole, so he's going to have to wait for another lap. Shadow is already 2 seconds away from Julian. He's not pitting, and we do still have rain, so it looks like the rain is not going to stop until the end of the race. So, unfortunately, and Bit Extreme Racer is out of the race. Bit Extreme Racer has lost it at the exit of the last corner, is in the wall, and it is another virtual safety car deployed on the track. Very unfortunate stuff from the Welsh driver of the Red Bull. Both Red Bulls having a disastrous start to the season. literally, as both of them had disasters or crashes. Kruzix, as I've explained, crashed into Endinator and Iceman and is out. BTEX Racer loses the rear, coming out of the last corner and is out of the race himself. So Bounce gets promoted to a points-paying position. Deslad gets promoted to 19, TT to 8. J. Cole and Lehman also got promoted due to a previous mistake. I'm guessing BTEC was struggling on his tires. And yeah, virtual safety car is still enforced. The two cars that are the closest on the track with 10 laps to go are Lehman and J. Cole. Looks like Lehman caught J. Cole napping though on the restart as we have green flag racing once again. J. Cole is going to try to defend, but there's no way he could have. Oh god, he tried to defend, cut the corner, 3-second time penalty. Might as well just left the Williams through without a fighting chance, but it is what it is. And Lehman is up 2P6. Shadow takes it to the pits, unfortunately for him. Once the virtual safety car was deployed, he had already gone past the pits, and before he reaches them, the safety car has ended as Darren retires from the session. Another crash, or as Darren, no, I believe Darren had retired already. I believe Darren had retired already and is now just leaving the lobby altogether. Shadow going to come out of the pits. Not quite sure where he is. He just got, okay, he's ahead of Deslad, but on track he's behind Corporal Carrot. Shadow, oh sorry, what happened there? Why did the, oh, okay. I still had my thing, the choosing the driver thing was on BTEX Racer, that's why it opened his profile as I was trying to take a look at him. But yeah, Shadow has actually dropped behind Deslad. Maybe his confidence has dropped now on the cold tires and he opts to let the Racing Point driver through. Lehman has already pulled away almost 2 seconds to J. Cole. So at the moment, the closest duo on track is Shadow and Deslad. Let's see how it goes between these two. Of course, Shadow has shown that he has the speed to get past Deslad, but of course, under these conditions, and especially after the crash, that might affect Shadow's confidence. As you can see, he's taking the approach to the gas pitch chicane quite carefully, but he's still gaining on Deslad though. As you can see, he does have brand new intermediate Deslad. Ooh, that was a bit of a late lunge. Deslad gets forced wide for good measure as well. Deslad not only left the gap for Shadow to get through, he actually also gets squeezed onto the grass in the wet weather. That might be a death sentence as you are trying to put the power down on the grass to try to get fighting back, but Shadow is in the pits again. Is he retiring his car? It doesn't look like he has damage. Is the 57 giving up on the points paying position? No, he got a drive-through penalty. Did he exceed his... Wow, looks like he exceeded the speed at the pit entry and was punished with a drive-through penalty. So his first race of the season goes down from bad to worse as he's demoted down to P10. Unfortunate scenes from the British driver of the Renault. So taking a look back at the first couple places, Iceman has managed to get himself up to P3, so at the moment it would be a double podium finish for the Alfa Romeos. Julian is no match for the pace of Zer, just like in the first stint. Julian was very unfortunate to not be able to take advantage of the virtual safety car. Had he taken advantage of that, it would have been leading the race by with quite a gap, I would say. But unfortunately for him, he wasn't able to do that, and it is his second 3-second time penalty. Iceman might be on the cards for a second place finish. This might be a 1-2 for the race. It might, for the Alfa Romeos, as Iceman only needs to gain 1.5 seconds on Julian now. It is the second penalty for Julian. Actually, let me just take a look real quick. Does Iceman have any penalties of his own? Only one warning. Julian has 2 penalties. Zerd has 2 warnings to his name. So, yeah, as you guys can see, Iceman might be on the cards to consolidate a 1-2 finish for the Alfa Romeo team. He just needs to gain 1.6 seconds at this point to Julian. Of course, if Julian wasn't quicker, he wouldn't have pulled the gap to begin with to Iceman. But nonetheless, maybe Iceman can find an extra gear in these conditions, especially as Jeff might be telling him that the car ahead has penalties. So Iceman might be pushing in the laps to come. We have 6 laps to go. It is feasible, I would say it is feasible for Iceman to get 1.5 seconds on Julian. The gap is still increasing slightly lap after lap though, so we are going to see how that one develops. Looking further down the order, Shadow, after his demises, is trying to get back on a higher points paying position. Is chasing down Bounce, but the gap is still 2.2 seconds. I expect that to start going down considerably fast. It is already under 2 seconds, not only because he has demonstrated to be faster, he also has fresher tires. So that's definitely going to help the British driver on his charge. After Bounce, there is a almost 14-second gap though. So the chances for him to get above 9th place are slim to none, I would say, for the number 57. We're still going to follow him for a little bit. As you can see, Bounce is dropping time and over fist, as we are about to start the lap number 23 for both of the drivers. Going on board actually with Shadows, you guys can see the inputs from the throttle and the brakes as he navigates a lap of this circuit. But yeah, let's see how it goes for him. You can see how much more confidence is on the tires, given that he has more grip because those tires are fresher. So Bounce keeps on losing time to Deslad. So Shadow needs to make quick work of Bounce if he wants to have a chance at getting 8th place at the end of this race. Julian does another fastest lap of the race, so he pulls back a little bit on Zerd and pulls away. The gap is now 2.5 seconds between Julian and Iceman, and I say that because Julian has 2 3-second time penalties as Shadow gets a better exit out of turn 10 and does quick work of Bounce, and now is on his way to cover a 15-second gap to Deslad. I'm pretty sure that's not going to be possible, but maybe Deslad is going to make a mistake. Let's see how that develops for him. As we're going to take a look at Zerd, who has had pretty great performance so far. He only did 1 flying lap, got provisory pole by 1/1000 of a second over Plexit on his first flying lap. Didn't improve on that. At the end of the session, Shadow managed to get under 1:20 lap time to get pole himself. Then at the start, Zerd didn't have the greatest of starts, but he managed to recover and put pressure for Shadow. He actually had an attempted overtaking maneuver that failed because he went too late on the brakes into turn 3, trying to have a go around the outside of the Renault. The Renault was able to come back down the inside, taking advantage of Zerd's mistake to claim P1 again. And after that they pitted. Zerd had lost 1.5 seconds because he was undercut by Shadow, but he just kept on piling up the pressure. About 2 laps after that he was already back to under 1 second from the British driver of the Renault, and he actually had a mistake that could have put him in the wall exactly in the same way as what happened to Shadow. They lost the rear at the exact same spot. Zerd had quick enough reaction times to avoid the wall. Shadow didn't have the same luck, unfortunately for him. Julian had posted the fastest lap of the race. Zerd is going to say, wait a moment, I know I have the pace, I want the 26 points, let me claim that for myself, and he did. I couldn't quite catch the exact lap time, but he did claim the fastest lap of the race for himself. Julian is trying his hardest, but he's already 3 seconds away from Zerd. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to catch up to the Alfa Romeo, especially as Julian has 2 3-second time penalties. So even if Zerd was overtaken by Julian, Julian would need to pull away by 6 seconds, unless Zerd made any mistakes of his own that would get him a slap of on the wrist. But yeah, as it stands as highly unlikely for Zerd to lose this Grand Prix. Taking a look down the order, doesn't look like anyone is gaining considerably on the rivals, as Zerd does another fastest lap, 1:33.6, just trying to establish his superiority over Julian, who keeps losing time. Even though he's pulling away from Iceman, he keeps losing time to Zerd. Yeah, Lehman had that battle with J. Cole, and in such little amount of time, J. Cole already dropped 6 seconds to the pole. Looks like he's finally able to stretch his legs a bit. He has been dealing with traffic the entire race. I've seen some comments in chat asking about Lehman's performance, and he's in the wall. J. Cole is in the wall, and their safety car. The safety car has been deployed for these guys, and ladies and gentlemen, we have some spicy stuff late in this Grand Prix. Julian has he has younger tires on his car. He does have the penalties. Will Zerd, will any of these guys in fact go for the pit stops? Dazlad is going to a pit stop of his own. Iceman gets a drive-through penalty for spinning under the safety car. Disastrous moment for Iceman. That might be what Shadow needed to do some damage control. Iceman had an opportunity to claim a 1-2 finish for Alfa Romeo, and he completely botched it. What a moment there from Iceman. He had it in the palm of his hands. He just needed to keep himself within 6 seconds of Julian, because Julian has 2 penalties to his name and is awarded a drive-through penalty. Even though we have the safety car, it's less than 3 laps to go for the end of the Grand Prix, so the safety car won't take too long, to say the least. It's going to be tricky. I'm expecting the safety car to only last 1 more lap. I'm expecting us to go into green flag conditions at the start of lap 28. As JSR gets a drive-through penalty for speeding under safety car as well, which is unfortunate. Iceman, on top of that, is going to the pits for a replacement of tires. Plexits is going to move up to P3, trying to save face for a bit of a blunder from the Renaults in this race, or at least from Shadows, trying to, at least in terms of the constructors' standings, Plexits trying to compensate for the mistake of Shadow. Lehman manages to get past Iceman, and yeah, as I was saying, I was seeing in chat some questions about Lehman's performance. He didn't have the greatest qualifying performance ever, but he also dealt with traffic the entire race, so he wasn't really able to stretch his legs, and as soon as he was going to do the same, he just gets himself the safety car. So we have Zerd, Julian, and that's Cisco in P13 behind Julian. Safety car in this lap, so my prediction was accurate. Lehman, is he going to catch up to the safety car? We have some people still in the pit lane. Those guys are not going to catch up with the safety car. Iceman, is he going to catch up with the other guys? That's a corner cut and a half from Lehman then. I'm not sure if he's allowed to do that, but nonetheless, he did it. And it looks like he is indeed going to be able to catch up with them. Iceman, Entity, I'm not sure it's going to be touch and go for Entity. Iceman, I believe for sure is going to be able to catch up, especially as everyone is starting, or Zerd is starting to bunch up everyone as we are about to get another round of racing. Plexits as on the cards, a possible pit to finish. Julian, with all this, and with all the penalties. Oh, and Zerd gets a 5-second penalty for a severe collision with Julian. Julian now has only to overtake Zerd and keep himself away by a second to win this Grand Prix. We have we have green flag racing. Cisco has blocked many drivers behind him. Not sure if that was on purpose or not to help Julian, but the fact is, Cisco was very slow to get out of the way. That blocked some cars there. There was also a miscommunication between Lehman and Plexits, a bit of confusion there. Lehman overtook Plexits for a second, had to give the place back. So they are third and fourth. Order has been restored between those two. But Iceman, right behind, is on one lap old tires. He's going to be pushing to get the podium. All these guys are going to try to get the podium, as Julian has 6 seconds of penalties, Zard has 5 seconds of penalties. I don't know about the situation of Plexit, Sliman and Iceman, but actually third to fifth might become first to third at the end of this Grand Prix. Let's see, though. We have yellow flags once again. Not sure what happened there. Can't quite see who might have lost the rear somewhere or had a crash that would deploy those yellow flags. No safety cars of any sort at the moment, though. Zard is already pulling away from Julian. Julian keeps himself within a second. We have Iceman pulling his trigger on Lehman and gets past the pole up into P4. This might be second place. This might actually be, if he overtakes Plexit, sorry, that might actually be the race win. Let's see how that one develops, as we are about to start the last lap of this Grand Prix. And my cable is still trolling me. I'm sorry about these guys. My cable got wrecked and I couldn't come up with a viable solution in such a little short amount of time. Nice English there as well. As we have Zard still under pressure from Julian. Iceman is pressurizing Plexis as well. It is once again, just like Zard was pressurizing Shadow, it is Iceman going around the outside of Plexis. This time around he manages to defend. Lehman is going to try to have a look. He's denied, and Iceman maintains P4. He's going to be able to live to fight another day. Let's see how it goes. Back to the fight for the top step of the standings. Zard is still pulling away from Julian, so nothing to see there. Iceman is pressurizing. He looks through the outside, he looks to the inside. He knows it's all or nothing. This might be the battle for the race win. The Iceman is going to try to have a better exit out of turn 10. Looks like he managed to do so. The Renault has to respect, has to give space down the inside, as we're going to go hard on the brakes into the SP chicane. Who is going to survive that one? Looks like they're still side by side. It is going to be Lehman. Lehman is on the, not the wall, but facing the wrong direction, as he got collected there. For some reason, Entity is now on the back of Plexits, and Iceman has moved up to P3. It was an all or nothing move, and Iceman got himself up to a P3. It looks like he's actually going to give the place back to Plexits. Zard is going to cross over the line in first place to take home at least a provisory win of the Australian Grand Prix. Julian in P2, Plexits in P3, Entity P4, Iceman P5. Entity gets dropped down a place. Sorry, Plexits gets dropped down a place. Iceman is actually very slowly. Did he run out of fuel? Oh, he got a 20-second time penalty for unserved drive-through, and he might as well have lost out on fuel. Lehman gets P5 from that. Will Shadow claim P6 from him? It was a 20-second penalty. Shadow does claim that, does not. So Iceman gets demoted down to P3. Looks like Entity and Plexits also had warnings or penalties of his own to not be able to capitalize on Zard's and Julian penalties. Looks like it has been, maybe that incident didn't allow, it slowed everyone down, perhaps, that incident at the exit of the high-speed chicane. So it slowed them down possibly and didn't allow them to get themselves on the top step of the podium. So we actually didn't have animation. Okay, the Haas driver finally appeared on the third step of the podium there. But there you have it. Zard claims home the win of the Australian Grand Prix. It's going to be Julian doing his best to try to catch up with Zard. Wasn't able to do it at the end. Even after the safety car bunched everyone together, Zard was just too fast, and Julian's mistakes weren't able to sorry, I lost my train of thought actually. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, Zard 5 seconds of penalties, Julian 6 seconds of penalties, and Entity still wasn't able to. Oh, Entity was too far behind because Plexits and Lehman had penalties. Entity wasn't able. He was able to get P3, but wasn't able to actually jump any of the other two ahead. So it is what it is. Lehman in P5, Shadow In P6, Iceman P7, Deslet P8, JSR still claims P9, and Bounce closes the top 10. Then we had Corporal Carrot and Cisco multiple laps down. Disastrous start of the season for the Portuguese, as we have J. Cole, BTX Sim Racer, Darren, Felix, Kaiba Chimi, Cruzix, Andy Nater, and Noah out of the race. They were claimed by the conditions here today at Albert Park. So this is it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like button. If you did not, the dislike button is, as always, right beside it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. Hit the bell icon for any notifications of whenever I'm about to start a live stream or to post any videos. Hope to see you guys next time, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.